Hello everyone, I'm David Shaw. I'm the CEO Administrator at Nor-Lea Hospital District. And Nor-Lea and Lee Regional and other healthcare entities across Lee County are working together to make sure that we get the COVID-19 vaccine here in Lee County and begin to provide protection to people in our county. Today what we want to do is we want to talk about the Pfizer vaccine and answer some of your questions that you may have about the vaccine and whether or not you should take the vaccine. I think one of the questions that I'm often asked is, how did we get to a successful vaccine so quickly? This hasn't happened before. And so I want to address that issue. The one thing that you need to know is there were no shortcuts taken in the clinical trials to test the vaccine. There are actually 3 things that are done during that process. Each one of those trials, phase 1, 2, and 3, those took place. They researched the safety, they researched the efficacy. It also went before an independent scientific panel to make a recommendation to the Federal Drug Administration to approve the Pfizer vaccine, which happened just recently. None of that was shortcut. What happened this time that made things different is that there was a program called Operation Warp Speed. The federal government went to these vaccine manufacturers and told them, we will guarantee you the cost of your vaccine if it fails. We will guarantee the purchase of a certain amount of your vaccines if you're successful. And so this gave the manufacturers some assurance that if they started mass producing the vaccine once they had it developed, even before they had approval for the vaccine, that they could produce a certain amount by the time they got FDA approval. And that's what's happened. The Pfizer vaccine, in fact, there's approximately 25 million doses that are available to the public that, as I speak, are being shipped across the country to departments of health and will soon be delivered here to Lee County. This has been incredible, and so rather than having a linear process where you get approval from the FDA and then start manufacturing the vaccine was being manufactured while they were going through clinical trials. So that's why we got the vaccine so much quicker. I'm honored today to also have with me Jennifer Pyatt. She's a pharmacist with Lee Regional Medical Center, and she's going to talk to you about the vaccine, the Pfizer vaccine, some specifics about the trials, what we found out through those trials, and she's going to share that information with you. So Jennifer, I'm going to invite you to come up. Thank you for being with us today.
I wanted to thank David for including me and Lee Regional Medical Center in this incredible feat to try to get our community vaccinated, and also wanted to thank our community partners as well. So a lot of people are concerned about what is in the vaccine. So I want to clarify for everyone that the vaccine itself, all that it includes is an mRNA particle, a molecule, let's just say. The mRNA particle is something that our body has every single day. It is the instructions for our body to produce proteins that are needed in the body. Through the vaccine, we will give the mRNA particle that will tell the body to make the protein that looks like the spike protein that is on the coronavirus. That spike protein will be released out into the body, and the body will basically see that particle as a foreign substance and will start to build an immune response to it. The vaccine does not contain the entire virus, so we're not injecting the mRNA for a virus into your system. It's just the mRNA particle for the spike protein. As far as the side effects of mRNA vaccines, during the trials, it was found that most commonly was soreness of the injection site. We see this with almost every vaccine. It's something that's not unexpected. There can also be fatigue. That was around 4% of people. Headache happened in about 2% of people. And the fever was seen, but not that common. Less than 2% of people in the studies had those side effects. A lot of people think that, will this vaccine make me sick? You will have some side effects, but we always think whenever you are having side effects to a vaccine, that's actually a good thing, because it shows that your body is responding to that vaccine and that your body is mounting an immune response. So anytime you see a reaction to a vaccine, that's actually a good thing, because your body is doing what we hope it will by getting that immune response. So side effects tend to be higher after the second dose. So with the Pfizer vaccine, The second dose will be around 21 days after the first dose, and those side effects seem to be more prominent during the second vaccination. The efficacy of these vaccines is very, very high. We're very excited to see the results as far as the efficacy of these vaccines. Over 90% for both. Generally, our influenza vaccines are around 50% effective, and so this is quite effective. So both vaccines are, like I said, they're over 90% effective in preventing illness in people who have received the vaccine. But in the studies, not one person who was vaccinated went on to have severe coronavirus disease. And I think that's one of the important things to think about, is that it's almost 100% effective, or 100% effective in what we've seen so far in preventing people from being very, very sick. And that is why it's important to consider getting vaccinated for yourself and your loved ones. The only way to get this virus to go away is to vaccinate our population and to try to get this under control. So I think it's really important to think about, when you get vaccinated, you're not only helping yourself, but you're helping others in your community. One of the things that I think that's very important for you is to educate yourself. Try to look for reputable places like the New England Journal of Medicine, the Journal of American Medical Association. Those types of journals are peer-reviewed. People review the journals to make sure that the information is accurate. And one of the concerns that I have with people is it's called the long hauler syndrome. And so long haulers are patients who have gotten the coronavirus and they went through the course of the disease. However, they're testing negative, but their symptoms go on, and these symptoms can go on for months. We don't really understand the long hauler syndrome, but these people can have brain fog for a long period of time, fatigue for a long period of time, severe cough, respiratory problems. And so it's something that actually can really affect people's quality of life ongoing. And we don't know at this point what the long-term effects of these long haulers are, how long these symptoms will last. And so please educate yourself on long hauler syndrome when you're thinking about whether or not you should get the vaccine, because, soreness, fatigue, soreness of the arm, the injection sites, the muscle aches, fever, that is not, in my mind, anything that is worse than the long hauler syndrome, and also the deaths that people are having from this virus. When talking about the risk versus benefit of the vaccine, COVID-19 was the third leading cause of death in our nation as of October 2020. So we're really facing some serious consequences from this virus. Deaths seem to occur more in men than in women. Obesity, cardiovascular disease, and comorbidities are also things that cause you to be at higher risk of death with this virus. People over the age of 65, we know, have been suffering from this virus as well. And for some reason, it seems that minorities have a more complicated course after having a COVID infection. It's important to protect others, and by getting the vaccine, we're protecting others. You're not only, protecting yourself, like I said before, but you're also protecting the population and people that are at higher risk. So if you're infected with the coronavirus, you can cause others to become sick as well. And we know that this virus spreads very rapidly and very easily through the population. And vulnerable populations are just not able to survive as well as others with this disease. So even though you're a healthy person, you need to think about the populations that you might be around and that you could possibly affect. Other considerations, I thought it was interesting, but I saw some countries are going to be requiring you to have a proof of coronavirus vaccination in order to travel to those countries. And if you don't do that, then you have to have a 14-day quarantine period. Those are things to think about. I've already seen some concert venues that will require patrons to show a recent negative COVID-19 test or to show proof of vaccination. So this could affect you in your daily lives in ways that you don't realize at this time. So just lastly, I just want to kind of I'm talking about who should consider getting the vaccine, but there are people who should not consider getting the vaccine at this time. The Pfizer vaccine was FDA approved for people 16 years of age and older. Anyone who is pregnant or planning on becoming pregnant in the next 2 months, or who is breastfeeding, they're not recommended to get the vaccine at this time. Not because there were any detrimental effects to anyone who was pregnant, but just because we don't have the studies at this time. So once more information is available, that may change. Anyone with a history of a severe anaphylactic reaction, so anyone who carries an EpiPen around or who has a serious life-threatening reaction should not get the vaccine as of now. The studies will continue on with those populations, but as of now, the plans are, the recommendation is not to get the vaccine at this time. And then anyone with a positive COVID test over the last 90 days, we're asking that they do not get vaccinated. They have some immunity at this time, and so since there are a limited amount of vaccines, we are asking that they wait until we can get more of the population vaccinated before they get vaccinated as well. And that's all I have. I'm going to go ahead and give it back to David so he can talk more about the priority groups for the vaccination plans moving forward.
Thank you, Jennifer. So I know a big question on everybody's mind is who gets to go first in getting the vaccine and when will it be available for me? And there's really, the CDC has set up some guidelines that we must follow. And there's really 4 critical groups that we're trying to reach in the next couple of months. The first group is healthcare providers. So the first allotments of vaccine that we receive will go to frontline staff, people that are working in hospitals, EMS services, and then that'll expand out to other healthcare providers throughout the community. That also includes long-term care providers, long-term care staff, and also long-term care residents. That's a fairly significant group, and that may take us up to 4 weeks to get that entire group vaccinated that want to be vaccinated. Then we move on to a group called essential workers. These are individuals that are doing the things that must get done every day. Firefighters, police officers, sanitation workers, other people like that do things that we depend upon each and every day. So that group will come next. And then we're going to move to a third group, which will be the 65-year-old or older. And then the last group that we're going to look at that's a critical group to reach is the group of people that have underlying health conditions that put them at risk from COVID-19. Once we've captured those 4 groups, then it'll be open to the general public. Now I get asked a lot, well, how long will this take? And that's it depends question. It depends how quickly Pfizer and Moderna produce the vaccine, if we have another vaccine come on the market in the next couple of months. But I suspect that it will take us several months, well into the early summer months before we can get the majority of the population vaccinated that wants to be vaccinated. But let me give you a picture of what's going to happen in the next 2 to 4 weeks. We do know this. We know that there's already an allotment for Lee County. Lee Regional is going to receive 150 doses. Nor-Lea Hospital District will receive 250 doses. We're working together. We're going to combine our doses and we're going to make sure that the EMS services, they get their vaccines first. And then we're going to go to the frontline workers in the hospitals. That's not going to cover everybody. But when we get the second allotment, we should be able to cover everyone in the healthcare industry in Lee County, and we'll begin to expand to other areas in healthcare beyond that. Slowly, as we get into January, we'll begin to reach out to essential workers. We know that we're going to get about 250 at Nor-Lea, probably another 150 at Lee Regional in the second week and the third week, but that may increase over time. And so what we will be doing is we'll be setting up mass vaccination clinics at the event center and at the fairgrounds here in Lovington. And you will be notified when it's your turn, and we will make an appointment for you, and you will drive to one of those 2 locations and we will administer the vaccine at that location. But I just want to encourage everyone, please check out our websites. We will be on social media. We will be in newspaper, on radio, updating the public on the progress that we're making with the vaccine and making sure that everybody has all the information they need to make an informed decision. Thank you for tuning in today.